Welcome back. You're watching SA Today with me, Unati Bagyashe. Let's take you here now. The Ethekwini municipality says several beaches from south of Durban to Umngeni have been closed due to the high levels of E-coli that have been found in the water. The municipality says the contamination comes after one of the sewage pumps have been vandalized and the recent heavy rains that washed waste from some informal settlements to Umngeni River, which flows straight to the sea. Let's discuss this further now. We're joined via Zoom by Desmond D'Sa from the South Durban Community Environment Alliance. Desmond, thank you so much for your time. Now, one has to wonder with this latest incident if the Ethekwini municipality really has a plan to deal with the issue of sewage spilling onto beaches.
Well, good afternoon, Nachi, and good afternoon to the listeners. Certainly the Ethekwini, this has been an ongoing problem for a number of years now. Since we hosted the 2010 World Cup in Durban and in South Africa, a lot of the budgets, the major budgets for infrastructure, for maintenance of these critical, like sanitation, like water, they have been shifted away. And so there's been no spare capacity, there's been no money available to maintain the plants. This is an ongoing problem that happens every year, and not once a year. It's an ongoing problem that happens quite a few times in the year. And we've been reporting on this since 2010. And every year we have found that the major infrastructure, the pumps and all that, there's no spare capacity, that the sewage is leaking into the rivers, into the ocean, into the canals, into the wetlands. A number of fish have died out of this here. People have been affected with their health. And tourism suffers, if sewage comes and no one wants to come to a beach that's full of sewage and stinking of sewage. And that's what has happened in the city. Despite all the programs and the questions and letters we've written to them to ask them to put in place, to work together with the community, put in place a program that looks at taking care of maintaining the sewage pumps, but also how do you deal with people who do not have access to any sanitation facility. We have 500 informal settlements in Durban, and they do not have access to the sanitation facility that is connected to the main sewer lines, or do they have anything connected to the pump stations? And herein lies the problem. How do you expect poor people? Where do they need to urinate? Where do they need to use the toilet? And they haven't come up with any plan at all. And this is a regular occurrence. This is, in the last 3 weeks, I've seen this happen through most of the beaches in Durban, whether it's in central Durban, where the tourism industry flocks to, or whether it's in south or north of Durban. We've seen that the pumps, as I talked to you, on the northern part of Durban, those pumps are still, the pipes are leaking into the river and is providing the sewage is entering into the ocean and on our beaches. The city must come clean. You cannot have blue flag beaches. You will recall that the blue flag status was taken away from the Durban city because of the high levels of E-coli, because when they tested it, they found that there were huge chemicals in the ocean. And I think once again, we should not be bragging about blue flag status when we can't even maintain the issues and deal with the issues prevailing in our communities, prevailing in the city as a whole. When the city is prepared to sit down with the residents of Durban to find solutions to these problems, I think then we can apply for blue flag status and praise our city that is doing wonders. They do not deserve a blue flag status, our city, because they have abandoned the poor people by not maintaining the sanitation and the sewage works, but more critically, people just do not have access to sanitation in informal settlements, in houses that the city has built over the years.
Desmond,
so here lies the problem.
Perhaps before we talk about the blue...
must come to the party. The government cannot be in isolation of people.
Desmond, perhaps before we speak about the blue flag status, are you saying then, because this issue has been ongoing for several years, that the problem here is not really the human capacity where that lies? It's actually that it's not being resolved because there is just no leadership will in this instant and in this case. What then should happen?
Well, I think government national government has identified, we have our president on a regular basis talking about we lack the capacity, we do not have the experienced people. So I think we have to do a head count. Who are these people involved in maintaining? Are they the right people? Have they got the qualifications? Can they deliver to the masses of our people to ensure that jobs are created, but also the tourism industry that provides millions of jobs and brings in a huge amount of revenue to Durban is not being destroyed. Now, that's what needs to be done. And I think if our local government cannot do it, then it's either the provincial or the national government must step in and pull the plug on the city, pull the plug on the resources, because they're just not doing their work. And if that's been going on, let's go and look at there's enough evidence. They must call the community people to provide the evidence. And I'm sure our president on his local visits during the 2021 local government elections, he found that many people were suffering with sewage in the drinking water, sewage in the stream, sewage in the river. And that's on account of the municipality's failure and the municipality not putting together a plan and not having the leadership to do the work that is so required, so needed at this time. If they want to get the trust and hope of people, then it's time to start talking on the ground to people and getting their views and ensuring those views are impacted, are affected immediately, rather than waiting and passing budgets every year without anything being done about sanitation. Because as we all rightfully say, is that this is becoming a huge issue, and sooner or later the tourism industry will close down. And what happens? People lose their jobs. We already over 7 million people unemployed all over the country. How much more must people lose their jobs? There is no jobs because government is not employing the right people. We have skilled people sitting at home and not being called to come and render a service and be employed by the city so that the sanitation can be dealt with once and for all, and that the beaches cannot be the sacrificial zone of all this high level of E-coli, but also the chemicals that come from all the nearby factories.
Desmond,
it's a huge issue.
Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Groundwork called for the results of the beaches in Durban to be tested. So perhaps there will be some level of accountability, as Desmond says, if that happens. Well, that was Desmond D'Sa from the South Durban Community Environmental Alliance.